Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that being Maca Reactor here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today we are going to be discussing Final Fantasy VII. Wait, we've discussed Final Fantasy VII before, you say? That's true. So then we must be discussing the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's time to put the Final Fantasy VII Remake on our ranking of fantasies, and joining me on my Sisyphean task, Chris ZombiePie Redacted.
Why does the government keep saying I owe back taxes? I don't pay the government, and the government don't pay me.
Joining us also on this journey, Jeff Rud.
So we had kind of a stay-in date night the other night, and I wanted to go to a new place. I'd not gone and bought fancy groceries from recently, so I went to one in town. You know what it was called? Marlene's.
What?
I know. Yeah.
Is this a crossover episode?
Word!
And we are also joined on this endeavor by someone who is not a star of the Off the Deep End spin-off podcast. We're joined by one of the co-hosts of the main podcast, M. Palladino. Hi, M.
Hello. I never understood what ZP was saying whenever he did an introduction, and I realize now that it's just nonsense every time.
Yep. There's no reference. It's just chaos.
Yep. I thought it might be a thing, like maybe it's tied to the game or something. Nope.
Always chaos. Welcome to our show, Always Chaos.
Speaking of chaos.
Oh no.
What is it this time?
We all know what that rustling sound means.
So it's time for the food review. I feel like I got outed last time we did a food review in which I openly admitted that I buy things in bulk and for the purposes of food reviews. I got nothing super crazy here. I will say, though, that in reference or in lieu of maybe some on blue jokes the last time I was on a podcast, I am here to be a good Christian boy. So I have bought Pocky, a flavor of Pocky that I've never had before. It is cookies and cream flavored.
Oh.
That's probably pretty good.
But every time I eat one of these Pockies, I will be doing a dad joke.
Why?
A butt-themed dad joke.
How many do you have?
So here's the first Pocky that I've got. What did one butt cheek say to the other? Between you and me, it stinks in here.
Damn it.
That's pretty good. Oh, it's cookies and cream. It's kind of like a vanilla flavor with, like, Oreos on it. Okay, let's have another one.
That is cookies and cream.
What medicine do you take when your butt hurts? Aspirin.
Well, thanks for having me on, Gino. I'm going to go to bed now.
Good call.
One more. Why did the butt get slapped? Because it was being cheeky.
God damn it. Did you look these up, or did you brainstorm?
A little bit of both.
Just want to say, this behavior is not tolerated from ZP on my show.
Oh, isn't it?
Apparently it's just...
Oh, it's not.
It's just...
Oh,
Nope,
okay.
I can't even get it out. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Final
I
Fantasy.
listen to your show before I publish it. I know what's on there, mostly. All right, well, welcome to the show. Now that we've got that out of the way.
That's a good 4 out of 5. It's Pocky, but it's a good flavor of Pocky. I think I like it better than chocolate and strawberry.
4 out of 5, it's Pocky.
Yep.
All right, well, now let's do our normal housekeeping. You can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. That is our email address. You can also get in touch with the show via our Patreon. If you join our Patreon, patreon.com/deeplistens, you'll get access to our Discord, where you can hear these chuckleheads that are involved in the show right now, discussing what their next shows might be, or other things like how the Kings are bad.
How bad is it right now? 14 points? Cool. Awesome. Great job, Walton.
So
Why are you the destroyer of my dreams?
You really need to not tie your life goals and dreams to Luke Walton's decision-making.
Don't I already feel enough pain? Why do you have to put me on blast like this?
All right. Well, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Who wants to explain?
Checking to see if we have any comments on the YouTube because you can't be bothered to do it yourself.
Yeah.
On my own show, no less.
Feels
Wait,
aggressive.
it says we have one comment on the Fire Emblem episode, but it's not displaying.
Good.
Did you not approve of...
I didn't see anything. I can let me check. Let me check real fast.
It says one comment, but it's not there.
Oh. Well, I mean, it could easily be a spammer that got caught in auto delete. Let's say, new comment on the Fire Emblem podcast. It says 0:50 vum.in.net. That's what it says.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely click that.
Yeah, you definitely want to type that into a browser and hit enter. All right, so thank you, random spammer.
What was
Thank
the
you,
user that gave us the wonderful input?
I can't say. So, Final Fantasy VII Remake. It is the remake of the beloved 1997?
7, then 8 is 1998 is 8. I'm finally in the process of actually writing the Chrono Cross blogs, so fucking wait for that. They've been taking a long time because it's
weird.
It turns out my screen caps didn't capture properly, and so I had to replay the game.
Awesome.
I don't want to talk about it.
So, Jeff, as you are the video game archivist among us, can you tell us a little bit about Final Fantasy VII Remake?
Yeah, okay, I guess. So Final Fantasy VII Remake was born around the time Final Fantasy VIII came out, and everyone was like, everything after 7 is bad, apparently. There's, like, mythological origins for this thing. So one was that damn demo they released at the Origins, not even a demo, it was a tech demonstration at the Origins of the PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
It was just like, look what we could do. Like, we could remake this, literally a guy jumping off a train, and it's gonna be hot, it's gonna run at 720p and be amazing. And then they were like, yeah, we're not actually doing, like, immediately, like within 10 seconds of showing that clip.
And that demo used the Crystal Tools engine, remember?
I don't, but sure.
Yeah, so they used, the whole point was to show, we made it our own engine for Final Fantasy 13. Look at how cool this engine is. We're going to actually use the characters from a different game to show you how cool this is, because we're not ready to show how Final Fantasy 13 plays.
Apparently, Final Fantasy 13 at its launch, either Nomura or some other Square executive handed the first copy of the game to the first person who bought it in Japan. This individual purchased the game, did a polite bow, said thank you, and then immediately said, please remake Final Fantasy VII.
That's the appropriate response to being given the first copy of Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, hadn't even turned the game, hadn't even walked out of the store. Spoilers, Final Fantasy VII is a popular thing. People seem to like it. It's pretty good. It's okay.
I would say it's the worst of the PS1 Final Fantasies, but that's fine.
Yeah, we got different opinions on that, and that's okay. We're adults and we can disagree. I think it did not need to get remade, and I don't know why this happened in the first place, except a lot of money and throwing enough spaghetti at a wall that didn't stick, and they're like, damn it, one of these needs to hit finally. So, yeah, this got announced in, PS4 times.
Yeah.
At some point in that big press conference where they were like, we're building the list. I feel like this got announced at the same period that Shenmue 3 got announced, maybe on the same show, which, if you think about it, is really fucking funny.
It is.
These things are equivalent. But yeah, that's a short version. I don't have a Wikipedia up or anything.
Here's actually a couple of funny things that happened. So first off, the remake was originally, I forget who the original developer of this was, but They were some sort of like mobile developer. Fuck, I forget it. So maybe Jeff look it up. But
was CyberConnect attached
that
to
is
this?
that was who they were. So they were originally supposed to make a shot-for-shot HD remake of Final Fantasy VII. For whatever reason, like as with any project that Square contracts and then provides inputs to, they got super confused about what Square wanted out of the project versus just a normal shot-for-shot remake. And as Square's demands got higher and higher, they did not increase the budget of what they were giving them. And then eventually, when the project became just a complete clusterfuck, they pulled the plug and brought it back into internal development, leaving the original developer dry. When this was the first trailer aired, that, you know, when they were officially announcing that, yeah, no, it's still alive, it's important to note that Nomura was credited as the director, and that was the first time he had heard that he was actually going to be working on the project. They did not tell him until after the trailer aired because he was already in progress with Kingdom Hearts 3. So he's like, shit, I guess I'm the director of this Final Fantasy project? What the fuck?
Surprise, motherfucker.
But the actual creative lead is a man by the name of Naoki Hamaguchi. And the reason why I know him is he was the lead programmer of Lightning Returns.
Oh, no.
And he was also the creative lead of Mobius Final Fantasy.
Oh,
so I would say, as someone who had played both of those games, I went into this thinking, oh, fuck, this is going to be a disaster. These are people that, you know, you've got the normal creative lead who's busy doing Kingdom Hearts 3 and kind of like doing Final Fantasy VII Remake as a like side business almost. And then the actual creative lead has never worked on a proper console video game thing. And I like Lightning Returns. We don't need to revisit that, but that is not a full project, let's just say.
Yeah. Having your titular lead be responsible for some of the worst storytelling mistakes of the last 20 years of Squaresoft.
Okay, even not to make the mistake of saying a director is not the programmer, is not the writer.
I know.
So
I know Nomura is not. I don't know if he makes the creative decisions or if he just simply allows creative decisions that seem poor to be made.
Fuck.
His name is attached to a lot of questionable decisions.
Yeah. So we'll get to that because we're talking. So for today's episode, we're going to be talking about chapters 1 through 9. So kind of halfway through the game, basically till the end of Wall Market. So to jump off, the game starts with a shot-for-shot remake of the beginning of Final Fantasy VII.
Correct.
You're on the Maca Reactor 1 bombing mission. The game's style has changed, however. It is now a mixture of real-time combat and kind of a slow-mo mode that you can go into when you want to select attacks using a menu-based system. So instead of just going with turn-based combat, there is real-time combat where you can move around. You press square if you're on a PS4 or PS5. You press square to attack and slash. If you press the X button, it calls up a menu where you have kind of these action meters, kind of like Final Fantasy XIII, that fill up over time and as you attack. And you can spend those meters to perform attacks. And you also have MP, where you can use magic attacks. And magic attacks also. Magic attacks, items, abilities, all of them take an ATB meter to use. And most characters top out at 2 ATB meters at a time, so you can't just stack them forever.
So, Gino, I really don't want to interrupt you, but I do. This is a pretty important point of clarification. Just roll call. Did you play real time, or did you play the strategic turn-based mode? Everyone.
So this was one of the games that I played entirely like with my spouse, who's like, I guess like. Whatever. I don't want to totally derail this. This came out right at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was a very big deal in the Rud Marrow household. So she was like, "Yeah, I don't know about this real time shit. Let's try this turn based thing." And that lasted about half hour. And it's like, you know what? I don't like or need this shit. Let's just go to the hit button version of this. So tried both, and I don't really remember what the turn based thing was like. Just that it wound up being like not a thing we enjoyed. at all.
I would
Yeah.
say that was basically my same experience. I started with turn-based, believing that it would be the most authentic way to play this game. Felt it was so slow and meddlesome, and the UI wasn't all that great. Switched to real-time, and then immediately felt like the combat actually felt good.
So, question: when you're playing on turn-based, how does dodging around work, or does it
So
not?
it is fixed battles. So it uses a random encounter system, and the number of people that you fight are actually kind of limited. So they adjust the random encounter system. So there's that.
There's a
but yeah,
random
I would
encounter
say-
system? Wow.
Yeah. It's
Does it do
it's
like
not
the...
a good. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I don't think that playing it turn-based is a good way to play this game.
Yeah.
I think that they put it in as like I don't even call an olive branch to people who gave them shit when they showed that demo, that first demo, and it's like, this looks like Final Fantasy 15. This is bullshit. Then it was like, no, they actually finally made that system good.
Yeah,
for the
I
first
think
time.
it's worth parking and talking about this for like a while because it's like most of the reason this game works.
Yes.
They've tried to thread this needle for 15 years,
Yes.
basically, and like maybe longer than that. Like if you count 11 as a thing, because it's
And
like
Kingdom Hearts.
and Kingdom Hearts. Like there are things that are running in real
Favorite
time, and they've got
Kingdom Hearts.
menu-based things going on. I think, and shout out to Discord user Reki Wells, who has a video about this that laid this out in a way that articulates the point very well. But 15, I think, is like a pretty good combat system with some things that I don't particularly enjoy about it. But this takes things I enjoyed about 15, some of the better ideas that are in 13, like that entire continuation, and makes the most enjoyable game to play start to finish that they've made in like 20 years.
Easily. Yeah, this is... The combat in this game takes everything that was good about 13's ideas. It takes a lot of the things that were good. I mean, I haven't played 15 yet, but it seems like it's taken a lot of the good ideas from 15, takes some of the good ideas from like a Kingdom Hearts, in terms of how summons work, in terms of how switching... I mean, there's no switching characters in Kingdom Hearts, but switching stances is a thing in there. So they've managed to hybridize a role-playing game, turn-based system with a real-time combat system, and it's a delight to play. This is, like you said, Jeff, probably the best playing Final Fantasy they've made since, what, 10? 10-2?
That's where I am.
Yeah, like, I think that this is probably one of the best playing Final Fantasy
And
games.
this is your chance to chime in about 14.
Well,
Yeah, you know what?
14
Hell
is
if I
a
know.
different animal. 14 is active as well as like maneuvering, and I don't think it compares. As far as like a more console experience, this is the best that it's come. It's very like Kingdom Hearts 2 had the action button when you press triangle.
Yep.
It's very much like jumping off from that so that you're reacting to what enemies are doing as well as like doing your own thing. And so it feels much more streamlined than anything else that they've put out since, I don't know, like I guess 10-2, because I haven't played it, but you guys have.
10-2 plays pretty well. The problem with 10-2 is not how it plays for the most part.
Yeah.
So I would say that this game, they managed to blend the tactical decision-making. Like when you press X, it goes into menu mode, and then you can pick your attacks. And it's very cool when it slows down to almost bullet time to make these decisions. So you never feel like you're just getting worked because you're in the menus. But you're not completely safe in the menus either. So you kind of want to be brisk about your decisions, but it's not like punishingly fast like 13 can be when you actually want to make strategic choices. So they've managed to thread that needle. You also can switch characters. You start out in the bombing mission with Cloud and Barrett. And each of these different characters plays differently. Barrett's a largely ranged character, so you're standing back, hitting a machine gun. And each of these characters have a square for regular attack and triangle for a special move that's unique to them. And that special move can be an attack, it can be a stance change, it can be a charge move. It really depends on which character you're dealing with. So Cloud has two stances, Operator Mode and Punisher Mode. Operator Mode is kind of his standard stance where he's just standing with his sword, like in Final Fantasy VII combat screen. He gets regular attacks with that. He can dodge, he can block. Punisher Mode, he kind of holds the sword over his head all wild, and his attacks deal almost twice as much damage. They hit a much wider range, but he can't dodge, and if he dodges, he will switch out of that stance. So he's kind of got a defensive stance and an attacking stance. Barrett has an overload mechanic, so basically there's a bar that's steadily charging, and when it's full, he can use an overcharged version of his gun or melee weapon if he gets a melee weapon later. And that overcharge will deal almost like a super move amount of damage, and it will also like stagger enemies very well. And then when he's, spent on that move, his triangle becomes a charge, so he can kind of reload the gun, and that'll allow him to use his super move faster. Tifa has an uppercut that upgrades depending on how many times she's kind of focused. She's got almost like meters, kind of like a fighting game. Like she can go up one level, then go up 2 levels, and her combos, like her basic attack strings, get longer and more powerful the more charged up she is. And then her super move, her triangle attack, inflicts a ton of stagger on enemies. And so you kind of want to, stagger the enemy and then pop the triangle twice in a row to increase the damage multiplier. And then eventually when you get Aerith, she's a ranged character. Her triangle button, if you press it, is kind of a flurry of magical bursts. And if you hold it down, it becomes kind of a mine that she kind of puts in a location. And after or a time bomb, after a certain amount of time, if an enemy's near that thing, it'll explode and deal a lot of hits in a row. So the combat system's very fluid. You're jumping between multiple characters a lot of the time. Enemies do a pretty good job of focusing on the character that you're controlling, so you're not just constantly getting worked because you swapped away from a character, left it to AI, and then the AI is doing dumb things. The AI plays pretty defensively with the characters you're not controlling, but that's fine. Like they're not dying for the most part, and that's what mostly matters. And so you're mostly focused on who you're controlling. And occasionally, whoever you're not controlling, if you need to swap to them or they fill up their meter enough to use a move, you can pop up the menu and have them call in their attacks. And then eventually you get summons and some other mechanics. You still have limit breaks. Limit breaks are kind of a meter that fills up as you take damage, and then it's use it or lose it for a super attack. I think the only other mechanic we didn't talk about is the Stagger Meter. It's adopted from Final Fantasy XIII. Basically, when you fill up enough stagger on an enemy by hitting them with extended combos, and there are certain attacks that do extra stagger damage. Once they hit 100%, they will become staggered, at which point they stop moving and allow you to just wail on them for a certain amount of time, and you will have a pretty significant damage multiplier on anything you do to them while they're staggered. So if you have a super move, if you have a limit break, you kind of want to use it on a staggered enemy because it'll do almost twice as much damage in a lot of cases. So this game starts with the bombing mission. We're jumping off the train, we're going in. Cloud is kind of a jerk, but I think pretty immediately, Cloud has way more personality in this game than he did in original 7. He's much less of a dick than he is Cloud's pretty much an asshole through most of Midgar in the original Final Fantasy VII, if I remember correctly. And ZP, you and I think, played this the most recently. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
But I think that you're also, in presenting that, you're kind of giving Final Fantasy VII the short end of the stick because Final Fantasy VII is across the continuum of however long that game is, and Cloud does change over that continuum, whereas the Cloud of this game is contained within one set piece or one backdrop, so obviously the development team would plan for that. So I think your point is taken, but I think it's also slightly inappropriate to even compare the two. Because Cloud does get his character transformation, but that was planned over the cross of an overworld, over a multi-act series so I think it's orange is apples, right?
Yeah, the original Final Fantasy VII was 40 hours for the entire game. This game is also, 30 to 40 hours, but it's just Midgar. It's just the opening, not even the first disc of 7.
And I would say, I am happy, and we'll talk more about this when we get to the actual set pieces and scenes. I am happy that they seem to understand, the team of what I believe was 4 or 5 people who wrote this. They understand that Cloud is more than a brooding dark teenager.
Yes, Cloud is much more fleshed out in this game than he is in most of the 7 tangential media. He is much cooler in this than he is in, say, for example, Crisis Core or
Advent Children.
Advent Children. Yeah, he's got a lot more personality to him, which is nice. So one of the first things that jumped out during the reactor mission is Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse are characters with wants and needs and beats. What did y'all think about the change to those 3 characters?
I thought it was great. I think it's also a highlight of the benefit of this game being one self-contained set piece, so is that they felt like they could. Whereas in Final Fantasy VII, the original game, I feel weird even saying that, they are kind of vessels for tutorializing. So I feel like this is an advantage Remake has over the original game. But also, through that characterization, the game gets a lot of mileage out of what would normally be just random NPCs or, characters that we just see in the background.
Right.
They are kind of late season X-Files Marlboro Smoking Man in a lot of ways, going from background characters to full-fledged characters. I know 2 of you at least got that.
That was a deep cut.
That 2 of you got that.
What's an X-File?
Ain't familiar with no X-File.
Yeah, so
okay, one of you got that.
It's nice. Like, Biggs is kind of bookish. Wedge makes a lot of food jokes, and Jessie is horny.
Yeah, she really wants to ride Cloud.
She is warm for Cloud's form.
I will say this is something that's going to come up in, I'd say, episode 2, but boy, the fact that they are characters sure makes what eventually happens all the more tragic and potent.
Yes, and
spoilers.
Spoilers for a 20-something-year-old game. But yeah,
I went into it believing that this was still going to commit to what happens at the end of Midgar from Final Fantasy VII, and so I even felt conflicted in continuing these relationships because, like, fuck, Jesse, you gonna get shot.
Yeah, I couldn't play this opening sequence without thinking, crap, they're going to make me care about these characters.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. And
sons of bitches.
In many ways, this game is playing with those expectations and those emotions. Like, they know that you know what's going to happen. And they do some interesting stuff with that. We'll keep talking about that as we go. So the Maca Reactor, like the bombing mission, is very similar to the original bombing mission, except when you actually blow up, when you beat the guard scorpion and plant your bomb, after the bomb explodes and damages the reactor, Shinra calls in a bunch of drones to fuck up the reactor even worse, so that they can frame you for a worse terrorist attack than what you intended, which I didn't think that was... I felt like when you're walking back from the blown up Maca reactor and people are reacting to this explosion, that was enough. Like, you didn't need to have this kind of, oh, actually, Shinra's even worse than you think. Like, you did a bad thing, but Shinra actually was the one who killed everyone. Because it seems like a lot of this game, at least in the early parts, they're trying to make you understand that Avalanche is an eco-terrorist organization. Like, there are consequences to your actions beyond saving the planet that they really show you up front in a way that 7 never did. Like, when you have to go back on the train and talk to people who lost people in the reactor when you blew it up, that's actually a hard moment, right? That's something that the original game did not really make you ask. Like, is this team doing the right thing?
I will say, and this is... So in preparation for this podcast, I've been reading a lot of reviews for this game just to see kind of like what other people's thoughts were. And obviously, I think we all know that this was a well-received game. I ended up finding EGM's review, and they were probably one of the more negative reviews of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And they did bring up what I think is a pretty good point, which is, boy, if you don't have any nostalgia for Final Fantasy VII, a lot of the visuals of this game are really hard and incongruous with the themes. It's like, man, I'm listening to this tale of this high poly rendered version of a merchant person that lives in this desolate slum. Here's a big guy with a robot gun arm. And unless you're able to say this is just within the context of Final Fantasy VII, it is oftentimes a hard pill to swallow. Because EGM did something that I think more reviewers should do, which is their reviewers just point blank says, I've never played Final Fantasy VII, and I'm going to play this as my first time, and my review reflects that, which I think is great. Reviews should have more perspectives kind of like that. But it was something that I've kind of been thinking about going back to this game, which is like, man, I'm able to accept this incongruity, this anachronism, because I like Final Fantasy VII. But if I didn't have that, like, I don't know if I would be able to accept some of these incongruous scenes and visuals.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, Aerith's outfit makes a lot more sense now, and Tifa's outfit is egregious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Open. I mean, Square can't stop being Square, right?
Yeah, you're definitely right there. Like, Barrett looks like he's 2 times as big as everyone else in this game. And he's got a gun arm. Tifa is dressed like no one else in this game. Like, every character you encounter, for the most part, outside of the Shinra people who are, dressed in their military uniforms, or like the Shinra soldiers, most people are just like fairly contemporary.
Oh yeah,
folks.
Like you do all of, and I feel like this is an even bigger problem when we get into like the amount of side quests and minigames. The game actively directs you to interact with these NPCs that look like normal randos with names and stories and whatnot. But when you meet with like fair-haired, pale, white-skinned little boy with like a fucking like sailor outfit, it's like, yo, what the fuck? And I understand that there's a reason why he looks and is like that. But the visuals that are Final Fantasy, or the times in which this is trying to pay homage to Final Fantasy VII or continue its vision and kind of its hallmarks within the scope of this high poly world, there's sometimes a continuity break.
Sure. So after the destruction of Maca Reactor 1, how did folks feel about this game's kind of ruminations on the consequences of Avalanche's actions? You have a train ride where you listen to a lot of people talking about worrying about their loved ones. You see people who don't have power. You see the rubble and the smoke in a way that the original game didn't. Did any of that stuff work for you, Jeff?
It's funny because I remember when I was in college, there was a person I was seeing at the time who was like not into the games, and I was trying to sell them. It's like, if I can squeak one of these past this person to see if they like it, I was like, maybe Final Fantasy VII, because they were pretty like green, and I was like, it's about eco-terrorists, and she's like, that sounds kind of cool, but I don't know. And as I've gotten a little older, it's like, yeah, it's about eco-terrorists, like maybe a little more fraught. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I think climate-friendly initiatives are like a bad thing necessarily, but maybe destroying infrastructure that probably powers, let's say, like hospitals and shit, like perhaps a little fraught. So I don't think it's like 100% successful in sticking your nose into the dog poop necessarily on the fact that you were like doing bad stuff, perhaps, but it flirts, it like plays in the space. I guess it kind of like meets the spec I was expecting it to do, which is like, does the video game version of that. It's like, yeah, maybe this is not great. I don't think it gets much farther than that.
The characters themselves do not seem to have much of a moment of like doubting themselves and whether this is right. Tifa is the voice of Enya and all of that.
Sure. And like Barrett classically was this is really important, and Barrett's I think got some pretty specifically ham-fisted dialogue that of course he would. Like that I think the developers and the people who were writing the script of this game like intended you to be like, this guy, I don't know about this. But yeah, I don't think it's like a fully formed or developed thing necessarily. But I didn't expect it to be. So I don't know. I got what I was expecting.
Yeah,
I will say Barrett's dialogue seems faithful to his original characterization. He was always doing those sorts of like grand speeches and,
grand speeches that everyone's like politely like, oh, God, it's not again.
Yes.
He's got a gun arm. We have to listen to him.
Yeah.
True.
He's a really big dude. We should just let him talk. Like,
he puts that little girl on his shoulder like it's nothing.
Also, I guess talking about Barrett dialogue briefly, like that first game, it was a noble attempt. The translation's got some issues. Also, like specifically, like the first identifiably black protagonist playable character in a Final Fantasy game, like it's kind of cool. They made him talk like Mr. T. Maybe less cool. Maybe doesn't hold up as well. Maybe problematic. And I think they avoid that most of the time in this game. To maybe its detriment, like there's some rule of cool that I think applies if you're especially going to ape Mr. fucking T.
True.
But guys, like
the alternative was possibly worse. Let's just say.
Yes. Yeah. So I think they handled that in a way that kept him cool, but was also socially acceptable and fiscally acceptable. Maybe we're the point in the Year of our Lord 2020.
It's almost like we're about to talk about another scene that falls into the same category.
We will eventually.
I would say the one thing, so there's something that I liked and there's something that I did not like to your topic, Gino. So the one thing that I actually liked was how the game brought up the topic of Wu-Tai and the past a lot more than the original.
Yeah.
So, for example, when there's the bombing in Midgar, all the residents are like, "Oh God, fucking avalanche! We're gonna get treated like Wu-Tai." And so there's this kind of reinforcement of these modern politics and culture in this society. Like this actually feels like a dystopian state. And I like the fact that it's like going back to the past that we haven't seen to kind of preempt us to possibly what happens in episode 2. The part where I start to push back whether or not this is a positive thing is that these differences are in service. I don't know if I want to say this.
Don't spoil.
I'm not going to spoil it.
We can leave it there.
We will get there, but these differences are in service of a thing that I still feel conflicted about.
Sure. So I just especially appreciated that the game at least shows you some consequences of Avalanche's actions. They're acting like Midgar's a place. They're acting like Midgar is more than just a series of screens that are connected with nothing, because nothing exists between them. And just getting to see that I found really nice. So after we blow up the Maca Reactor, Cloud runs into Aerith. They have their fateful encounter. And then ghosts show up.
Spooky ghosts.
Yeah. It's like, what's these ghosts? I bet this has nothing to do with the rest of this game at all.
So Aerith is standing around, and I guess she's going to leave or walk away, and all of a sudden she starts getting attacked by spoopy ghosts out of nowhere. And they look like Dementors from Harry Potter or something.
Yep.
Like they're shadowy things that fly around. And Cloud shows up and like saves her from the spooky ghosts. And at first I was like, oh, right, ghosts, because in and around this area there are ghosts in the original Final Fantasy VII. So it's probably just those ghost enemies, right? But no.
We'll get back to that.
I
will say I actually thought that, oh, hey, is this going to answer one of those weird burning questions I had going into this game, which was, hey, how's this game going to handle the flashbacks and the weird internal monologues in which, spoilers, Cloud's subconscious starts talking to him to direct him and comment about the choices he has made in the story. It's like, oh, wow, is that how they're going to address this weird thing that probably played a lot better when this was no voice acting? No.
Nope.
But
Instead,
Gino, how do they deal with those two things, the flashbacks and internal monologues?
so the flashbacks only really happen a few times. I think only like once do you get
Once.
a flashback to
well,
kind
you
of
get the one
Nibelheim.
with Tifa, which I actually thought was amazing. That scene when you start a conversation with Tifa and there's a quick little whoosh.
Right. So they do sometimes have interspersed flashbacks. So they just show a little clip of what's going on through Cloud's head, and Cloud doesn't really have internal monologues so much as he'll
They
sometimes
just
grab his
basically
head.
got rid of that.
He'll grab his head and be like, this hurts.
My brain.
Ow, my brain.
Which, in their place, you get another reminder that, they made some differences here. So there's the weird times in which a feather falls from the sky and lands or appears in front of Cloud.
Yes.
And this is a key, hey, remember that one guy, that scary guy, the scary guy that possibly burned your house down, but we don't know for certain at this point? Remember him? Remember that guy?
Yeah, so Sephiroth
Feather.
just shows up all the time in this game.
Sephiroth's just hanging out in your head.
Sephiroth is just Majima now.
Does Majima do
I don't know
things
who that is.
in
Just appears.
Yakuza? Okay.
Yeah, just shows up, is a dick.
Okay, I need to play those games, but I have not
I
yet.
can't believe this is with him, but okay, we're all right.
I
Walk
know
past.
he's the guy with the eye patch, right?
He's the guy with the eye patch, yes.
And the funny leopard pants. Yeah. I got you.
Get us back on
Oh,
script,
that
Gino.
guy. So yeah, the Sephiroth shows up at a bunch of spots. That doesn't happen in the original game, but it seems like the Sephiroth cutscenes, and there's a after I think the second Maca
they're the
Reactor
best.
explosion.
They're the best. By far, my favorite Sephiroth moment is like, they're in the bar, Sephiroth shows up, Cloud's like, fuck it, I'm gonna have to fight you again. He unsheathes his sword, and then it hits the top of the door, and he's like, fucking this giant big sword, god damn it.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? It's the little touches like those where it's like, you know what? They understand. They actually do understand the appeal of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. No one else has giant stupid swords. The fact that any of the weapons dealers sell giant stupid swords is very funny to me. Because it seems like it's only Cloud and Shinra's soldiers, and no one else uses them. But most weapons dealers seem to have at least one good one. So you go to the Sector 7 slums after you meet Aerith, and there's some combat as you fight your way back. So getting to the Sector 7 slums, there's a bunch of people now in the Sector 7 slums who want things, side quests, things for you to do. And Cloud kind of becomes the friendly neighborhood merc. Tifa kind of says, hey, you could really do some good here. You're big and strong, and the slums have basically no one to protect them or to do menial tasks. Could you help? And so you can take a bunch of quests to kill drakes, to kill monsters, to find cats. There's a little girl who wants you to find her cats. And all of these sequences, I think, add a lot of charm to the world. You care about the Sector 7 slums in a way that you never did in the original game, or at least I didn't. Do you all agree? Em, what did you think of kind of this break for side quests?
I mean, I did all of the little side quests. A lot of them are just like go into this locked off area and fight some monsters, which is fine. The one with the cats is cute. I feel like side quests should be like gearing you up for some mechanical, like,
Sure.
do you want to find some cats, and this will help you like listen for stuff later. So I felt like it was just kind of like pushing you around to the different set pieces, which I wasn't mad at. But I don't know if it aided the experience so much. Like, you could easily just skip that. I don't know if you're locked behind, like, you have to do a certain number of these side things.
You
but
don't.
I feel like you could just go right to the bar and ignore all of them.
You can. I mean, if you do the side quest, you do get a scene with Cloud and Tifa when they go back to Cloud's apartment because it's next to Tifa's apartment, and they have like an awkward exchange where it's like, oh, maybe they're flirting.
While we're at the apartment, Cloud's door is really fucked up.
It is. It's amazing.
Just want to point that out because.
So I think you actually looked this up. It's an
Yes.
issue with Unreal, correct?
Yes. So I looked into it because one of the major things is like if you're looking at the backgrounds and the skyboxes, it looks really weird sometimes. It's an issue that Unreal like loads the lowest setting rather than whatever it should be loading. So the thing with the door and all those skyboxes that you can like see the lines on, it's probably an error and probably something they're going to fix like down the line. But
They're
it's
probably
the
going to wait
engine.
until the PS5 version to fix it. That's my prediction.
Probably. Oh yeah, definitely.
I will say that since Final Fantasy XIII, Square Enix has been using the Unreal Engine, and for whatever goddamn reason, they continue to like misuse or not understand how to use the Unreal Engine correctly, because this is the same exact goddamn problem that plagued Last Remnant and all of their B-tier projects on the PS3 and Xbox 360.
Well,
Someone at Unreal should have dealt with this a long time ago.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
or someone at
it's
Square.
but they shipped it.
Yeah.
They're the ones who shipped it.
True. Yeah, so that door is definitely fucked up. Though I think like the side quests introduce you to the dude who runs the town watch. It introduces you to the woman who runs Tifa's boarding house. You meet a little girl who's
It's a lot
adorable.
of character work.
We'll also meet a little boy, Gino.
Yeah, we can talk about Chadley.
Oh, right, Chadley.
Wait,
Chadley,
I
the
think there's
material
one
boy.
thing I want to say before we get into the weird world. Well, Jeff, do you want to say anything about the side quests?
Just that I did them all, and like it was, I was somewhat concerned, remain somewhat concerned at the fetch questy. I don't think they like charitably they flesh out the world and introduce you to characters and are like an avenue for like cheap, quick experience. Looking at it another way, it's to just get me to the A plot, which you can just do.
Yeah.
So I can't complain too much.
I don't want to complain, but god damn if I really disliked how they use the same mission structure or the same design over and over again. Like, all right, I guess I'm going to go up this metal bridge or this catwalk yet again to cross over into a different load screen to meet a guy from Avalanche to then collect something or kill something. I just feel like a little variety.
Yeah.
I
They
can't
lead you
believe
to
I'm-
mucking around in some of the like
I can't.
most near automata looking environments of the
Sure.
game,
And-
like that
and
big
that's
dump
That's
specifically.
the issue, is that Midgar is such a monotonous environment, and that is to its strengths and to its weaknesses. I'm not saying that as like a big negative. And I can't believe I'm going to say something that's positive about Final Fantasy IX, because Gino and I are in this blood feud, but at least when you explore the towns in Final Fantasy IX, the structure, the missions, the way you interact with different people is occasionally fundamentally different. Like there's a fundamental difference in terms of how you interact with people. And that's not the case here. It's like, pick up my package of apples that I got lost when I got attacked by a haunted house. Please.
The haunted house, though.
Oh,
We'll
yeah,
talk
it's the
about the
best.
haunted
It is
house.
the fucking best. And that is what I would say is like, when you see the world, it's like, okay, cool. I guess I'll come back here and there will be something more important other than picking up random stuff here. Maybe this will be a boss battle area where I fight Reno and Rude, but right now this is just a place for this weird evil demon thing to exist that needs to be killed. And so I don't know if I subscribe that it does a lot to the world building.
I just think that this specific slate of side quests made me feel more for Sector 7, because when I was playing this, I knew the entire time this whole town is getting destroyed.
Yeah.
and they are going to try and make me care about this town that up until now, it was, like in original 7, it was home to the tutorials and almost nothing else.
A couple shit shacks, and that's about it.
Yep.
I would say, though, that as a result, it's kind of lacking that oh shit moment of when the CEO of Shinra just totally murdered a bunch of people.
But now you know who the people are. And so I think even if it's not... Yeah, and the cats. Yes. Yeah. Who can forget about the cats?
There are so many cats that are going to be murdered. And it's going to be sad.
Like, getting to know what's going on there, I thought it was a move. I would not have cared about the side quest so much if I didn't know that bad things were going to happen to these people. So after you have kind of your mission, you get paid from Barrett. You get told, like, you're going to, take on the next Maca Reactor. Jessie asks you to go on a special side mission, and in return she will give you summon materia. And she gives you, I think, Chocomog.
Yes.
Yeah. So was it Carbuncle or what was the one that you could only get if you pre-ordered the game?
I don't know. I didn't pre-order the game.
Pretty sure it was Carbuncle. Side note. Okay. Pre-ordered this game, right? There were some items that they were giving away as pre-order bonuses. To get these items, you needed to buy 5 or 10 Nestle branded candy bar
and
items.
Butterfingers.
Yeah, it was anything that Nestle
did
made.
you save your codes for Butterfingers from PAX?
I didn't. Damn it.
Take your receipt. You
could have got that
these
theme
10
for
purchases
free.
on it. This is a whole process I'm getting through. You have to have the physical receipt, photograph this receipt, scan it, upload it to a very specific website, and they would then issue you, after they processed and verified that receipt, digital download codes for 5, what wound up being kind of frivolous items in the game, but they've ultimately just gave away. You just go download them, now they're free. I did this, and the first photograph of that receipt did not turn out. This was during plague times. The receipt was in my office in Seattle, so I had to go back to my office in Seattle, re-photograph this receipt a second time, upload it a second time, get the codes, then put them in, just so I could have the fullest possible, best possible experience of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
What are the items? Are they weapons?
It was the champion belt, and it was a materia that did something. I could pull up the store right now and have a look. I'll pull
my characters seem to be lacking a weapon in their weapon slots, so I was wondering if it was a downloadable weapon.
You know what? Now that you mention it, one thing I want to say, I like the little touches in terms of, oh shit, the materia actually goes in the weapons, which I feel like was poorly communicated in the original Final Fantasy. As you attack, you can actually see the materia glow on the Buster Sword now.
Yeah. The items in question are the Superstar Belt, the Midgar Bangle, the Cordio's Armlet, the Mako Crystal, and the Shinra Bangle. So it was some early... It's it's every one of these things, right? It's some equipment that gets you marginally ahead of the gear curve for the first 5 hours of the game, and then levels off and becomes not as useful.
Cool.
That's all it was.
It's the Blood Dragon armor. It's the
yes, exactly
all that stuff. Yep. Okay. So we get Jessie enlists us in going to her house to pick up a Shinra key card. So it turns out Jessie has a story in this game. She has a last name too, Jessie Raspberry, which is a really good last name. And so you have to go on a mission up top to the surface. On the way there, you get attacked by a soldier on a motorcycle who's a greaser.
Can we talk about this guy?
Sure. What's his name?
I don't remember.
Dumb new character.
Yeah, he's...
shit bag.
Yeah.
He's very horny for motorcycles and very horny for you to fight him on a motorcycle.
He leads into the diesel punk, subliminal messaging of the original Final Fantasy VII,
I thought this
guess.
was a weird homage to Akira, but then again, whenever I see anime dude on a motorcycle, can't help but think, man, Akira, you still live strong.
Oh, I'm sure that's part of it, too.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was an homage to Johnny C. Bad from Chrono Trigger, the robot greaser who you race on a motorcycle.
It's something for everyone.
So, if we're going to talk about Jesse's mission, I cannot emphasize enough. Jesse really thinks Cloud is hot.
They
Cannot
lay it on
emphasize this
somewhat
enough.
thick, I guess.
Well, she's got to get all the horny out really fast for this to work. So she's riding on the back of Cloud's motorcycle, and she's hugging him, and Cloud feels emotions, it seems, but not like a lot.
Mostly confusion.
Yep, mostly confusion. He's really bad at reading signals. She's like doing everything but grabbing him. And in some cases, she's grabbing him.
Yeah.
But he's still very awkward about it. So once you get topside, you basically need to sneak into Jesse's dad's room. Because it turns out Jesse's dad is in a coma, which has occurred because he used to work at one of the Maca reactors. One day he collapsed in the Maca reactor because of Mako poisoning, because if you get exposed to Mako for too long and you're not a soldier, you basically just go into a coma or you die. So her dad is in a coma from collapsing in that reactor and being trapped in there for, I think she says, like, he was in there a day before someone noticed that he had collapsed. And so,
pizza.
Yeah, but you also find out Jessie went to the Gold Saucer to be an actress. She was originally an actress. Right. And then her dad was injured in the reactor. And so she came back to Midgard to take care of her father and her family. And when she gets back, she realizes Mako is a danger to the world, and she joins Avalanche to kind of take revenge on Shinra for what happened to her father. Which none of that shit existed in the original game. It makes Jessie a much more sympathetic character. It makes everything that happens to her much more painful. I think this is kind of one of the most masterful things that they did in 7 Remake, was giving Jessie a backstory.
Yeah, and it's like good. It's not just like a fobbed off thing. It's well considered, calls back to stuff you already know. Like, yeah.
It's whole cloth. It's not just a reference. It's giving this character a backstory, a reason for doing what she's doing, a tragic kind of career arc that she could have had but didn't because of what happened. It does just a great job of making Midgar feel real, making the Gold Saucer feel real, making this entire Avalanche crew feel like they have a reason for doing what they're doing instead of just being two references to Star Wars who are following along with Barrett, and one lady.
And she likes pizza.
She offers to make Cloud a Midgar special. This is a pizza.
Wedge likes the pizza more.
That's true.
Also, completely unrelated, Wedge, the voice actor is the character Badger from Breaking Bad. And whenever he talked, I could not get that kid out of my head.
I also had the same reaction. It's like, oh, man, which, now that you mention it, the voice acting in this game, pretty good.
It's pretty good.
And Heidegger is Bender from Futurama, and I couldn't stop.
Gino,
and
why
Waka.
don't you keep this genre appropriate or franchise appropriate? Waka.
Also Waka. Also the King from what is the Netflix exclusive Matt Groening show?
Disenchantment.
Disenchantment. Yeah. Yes, he's also the King in Disenchantment, and
that's
the King.
John DiMaggio.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, it's John DiMaggio.
Yep. John DiMaggio is. If you want a gruff,
he has a range. He has a range.
Waka, I think, is the most out of his range of any of the characters he's done.
Oh, and it's great.
It is.
There's a reason why he doesn't do that voice anymore.
I can't. Yeah, brother. So you get through Jesse's section, then you need to raid a Midgar base to steal bombs so that you can make a better bomb. Hopefully one that's less destructive than the one that blew up Maca Reactor number 1. There's an entire sequence. It's mostly just combat. You fight the motorcycle soldier again, and then he shows up. He saves you for no real reason. It was because he liked how you fought on the motorcycle. So he saves you. You leave. You go back to your mission. Now you need to get to bombing the next reactor. But we have some problems with the bombing of the next reactor. You get caught on a train when you're trying to go bomb the next reactor, and this causes you to kind of spoke off for a while and have to go through just a long combat sequence. In the original game, you just kind of walk through a few tunnels, I think. In this game, there's a few tunnels and then an entire substructure underneath one of the plates, which I think is one of the cooler locales, like as a concept, but it's kind of a long combat sequence.
Yeah.
The idea of fighting on scaffolding dangling from the top of this plate over top of these slums is it's a cool locale.
I had forgotten that setting was basically in the original game until we went back and immediately replayed Final Fantasy VII and realized that's where you have your last encounter with Hojo, is basically like
remember
the
you
underparts. Set
up the bomb. Yeah, you're right.
Because I was like, where the hell is this? Like, I don't remember this shit at all. I was like, oh, it's they didn't exactly whole cloth this. But yeah, it looks really cool. It's great looking.
But it looks
skyboxes, very impressive in this game. Worth
and this time they got to have ground boxes.
Yeah, the inverse skyboxes.
Exactly. So you get into the reactor. You try to blow it up. They're prepared for you to be there. There's basically no resistance for you to get in, but once you set the bomb, President Shinra shows up in a hologram and says, "Aha, you fools, we're going to blow up this reactor with you in it, and then we're going to blame Wutai, and then the war machine will spin up again, and we will give them excuses. We'll say Avalanche is working with Wutai, and everything will be good for us and bad for you." And then you fight the Airbuster. And there's kind of a cool sequence where you can weaken the Airbuster by diverting CPUs and bombs and materia crates away from it. And that's kind of fun. So you fight the Airbuster. They have the sequence where Cloud gets separated from Tifa and Barrett and crashes through the roof of the church in the Sector 6 slums, or Sector 5? Is Aerith in 5 or 6?
I don't. I'm going to be honest. I know them by the look,
7.
not by their numbers.
It's 5.
7.
So
5?
7 is Tifa's 7th heaven. 6 is Wall Market. 5 is Aerith's home.
Okay.
So,
can we really quickly? We don't normally talk about music. I find the way that they've redone the leitmotifs and the musical cues and the score from Final Fantasy VII, it's a little bit more electronic. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but I think I like the music in this game more, even though that seems like sacrilege.
I really like a lot of the remakes they've done. I like how they've changed the combat music up. I like how they drop in the world map music occasionally, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I like it more overall when they use the themes. Like, obviously, they are working with a palette that was created in 7.
Something about the lo-fi swoon of Aerith's theme that always kind of gets me, but
it's a really good theme.
It's a really good theme. Yeah, I mean, we're moving into kind of... I like the structure of this game a lot, because I like it being a series of points of no return, and unlike in Final Fantasy VII, the original game, you really do have a lot of evidence of your actions provided in the world that just don't suddenly disappear or, get gated off and you can't interact with them again.
Yep. So once you meet Aerith, you have the encounter with Reno and the Shinra soldiers, and the ghosties show up again, this time kind of forcing Aerith to run up to the roof where... Oh, is it Cloud who's on the roof? Cloud's on the roof and he drops barrels, and Aerith's on the ground. But the ghosts basically orchestrate everything so that you have to recreate what happened in 7. And I actually skipped over. Jessie was originally supposed to go on the second bombing mission, and then the ghosts show up and turn her ankle, basically, so that she can't go on the mission and so that Cloud has to. So it was at this point where I was like, oh, so the ghosts are just orchestrating things so that FF7 happens the way that FF7 is supposed to happen. Like, they delay people just enough so that the events play out the way they did in the original game. They accelerate things. They protect people when they need protecting. It's plot armor. They're ghostly plot armor.
Yeah.
I will share my impressions of this in the next episode.
Yes.
Yep. That is my theory. So you
I
go
have
through
things to say about them, which
Yep,
I will say for the next episode.
Yes. So
Sorry.
you meet Aerith proper this time, and you have this entire sequence where she's leading you back to her house. Again, another long combat sequence. But I will say that this version of Aerith is between this version and Crisis Core, they have made Aerith a much more fleshed out character than she was in the original 7. She really doesn't last very long in that game. And so I feel like a lot of the emotions that you put into her in that original game are really based on only a handful of interactions that are meaningful. Maybe it's at the Gold Saucer, or maybe it's the few moments in Midgar, but there's really not a lot of times where you get a feeling of who she is as a person. And in this game, you understand, like, she's very assertive. She's very forward with Cloud, where Tifa is a little bit more demure. She has
that dude with a chair.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll get to it, but I will say some of you in the Discord and other sources outside have made this point better than what I wish to say, but the sense of sisterhood and companionship between Tifa and Aerith is the best goddamn part of this game.
Yes. Yeah, Tifa and Aerith are friends in this game, and they're not like rivals fighting over a man.
Yes.
They get to have fun moments by themselves, and that's super cool. And Aerith being tough and not needing to be she enlists Cloud as a bodyguard, but she makes very clear that she doesn't actually need to be protected very much. She's a pretty good fighter. There's a couple of times where she says, like, I grew up in the slums. Like, I know this place and you don't. And kind of going back to her town and seeing what the Sector 5 slums look like, you see that she's helping out at a local school. There's a bunch of orphans who look up to her. She has her giant flower garden, which is super beautiful. I love Aerith's house and how it looks. You meet her mom, and her mom is very suspicious of you, which is fair. You have a gigantic sword and a weird gear arm, so I'd be pretty suspicious there too. So what do we think of the Sector 5 slums? More of the same?
Yeah, the part of this game I remember the least. Maybe just if only because like I don't know, get me to fireworks, I guess. This was the point where I was like, maybe I'm not going to do all these side quests after all. Some of them pay off in surprising ways, I guess. One particularly involving a teacher.
Yes, that's the one that I was going to say. Though there's the one involving the teacher. There's also one where there's the Angel of the Slums, who's kind of a Robin Hood figure in the slums. And yeah. I appreciated her whole deal.
But let's talk about Miss Folia.
Yes. So she's a teacher who teaches at the local school. She teaches mostly orphans. And we find out in the next section, so you get Aerith. You find out that she's been kidnapped a bunch and accosted by Shinra for most of her life. Her mom asks you to get out of here because you're going to draw heat onto Aerith that she doesn't need. And when you try to escape, Aerith catches up to you. She understands that you're going to try and ditch her, and she offers to lead you back to Sector 7. You get to have this sequence where they make the robot arms a thing. Like the giant stupid robot arms that you see in the destroyed highway.
They used the entire buffalo of the first 5 hours of this game. Like, I can't emphasize enough, like, how much mileage they got out of, like, nothing. I mean, It's not nothing. It's quite a bit. It's the best fucking part of Final Fantasy VII, and they took it and they actually improved it. And they also managed to do, like, every dumb thing you wanted. The arms, yes, it's yummy.
Yeah, I just love that the stupid arms, like...
It's not even
Cloud...
super fun to dick around with, but...
Oh, no. It's not enjoyable to play with the arms, but I like the... Cloud's like, what the hell is that? And Aerith's like, oh, it's a robot arm. You can move it with that controller. Like, what? This is just here? For what purpose? To what end? And they never say, because the original game never said. Because it's fun. Who cares? You meet a gang that's very cool. I think Butch, or Beck and his gang, they're thieves. They're bumbling thieves. And you beat them up, and they play dead when you beat them up, which is fun. And then you get to Wall Market. Well, before you get to Wall Market, actually, there's a sequence between Cloud and Aerith where Aerith says, so you're like a soldier, right? First class? Did you have any war buddies? Like, did you know anyone? Because the first man I fell in love with was a soldier first class, and it seems like there's very few of you, so did you know a guy? And then he's like, Cloud's like, what was his name? Maybe I know him. And then Cloud grabs his head for a while Aerith mouths the name Zack. And then we move on because we see Tifa. But, we start seeing this game tying together the bits of why Aerith would like Cloud. Yeah. Why Aerith would hang out with Cloud, why Cloud would like Aerith. Like a lot of those threads start coming together here.
Out of curiosity, did they have Aerith mention anything about Zack in the original?
No.
Okay.
Not
really.
until much later, and there's a quick reference of it in Gongaga, but that was off the beaten path and not a required part of the story.
Yeah, you can learn that Aerith
a
has
Final
a relationship
Fantasy
with Zack.
IX sort of
This
thing.
is maybe something I should mention. If you read the light novel adaptation prequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake titled Final Fantasy VII The Kids Are All Right, a Turk's Side Story, published only in Japan and unofficially translated, you would know that one of the protagonists of said light novel, Kairi Kanan, I forget what her name is, that last name, boy howdy, it's a lot, but her detective boyfriend, Evan Townsend, they are the main characters of that book, and I am excited to inform you that Kadaj is in fact canonically in the remake continuity. He exists.
Hooray!
I don't want to hear the name
Kadaj.
Kadaj.
Character in the novel, the official novel tie-in to this thing.
I don't want to hear about Kadaj.
Oh,
Is that wrong? I'm gonna. Don't threaten me.
He's gonna come up probably. And Kyrie,
Oh my
your
god.
favorite person in the world, Kyrie.
Please put Kadash in the next one of these,
Is Kyrie,
please.
Is Kyrie the
The little detective girl with the short pants.
Oh, the one with the hat.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's
the
gonna
one
lead
who's
you hopefully later on an adventure to try and track down Kadaj.
she's very Yuffie-esque, and she's a thief, and she's got a fun hat. She looks like a character from The World Ends With You.
Boy, you all should maybe read this light novel book that I read before
No thanks.
playing this game.
Nope.
How would we even find it?
Internet.
Great point. So you get to Wall Market, and Wall Market is great. It looks amazing.
It looks
it's
unlike anything you've seen up this point. Like, I think that's maybe one criticism that I said earlier is, like, it looks very much like, it's Midgar. It's a desolate fucking dystopian future land. Steampunkian, even. And then you get into the Wall Market, and it's just the best.
Yeah, it's a red light district, and they have made it as they make it as seedy and as specific as it can be. Like, you've got a cowboy bar, you've got weird dive bars that you can just walk past. There are, neon lit girls sorts of areas. There's a gym where people are just working out. There's an underground fight club. You have the Honeybee Inn, which has changed from a brothel in the original game to a burlesque show. In this one, a combination hostess bar burlesque show.
And masseur?
There's a masseuse now. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There's still that vending machine with the machine gun whenever you touch it that shoots at you. There's an inn where a dude says, "Hey, Cloud, do you want you two seem like a nice couple. Do you want to spend the night? And then you can be like, how much? And then Aerith's not happy if you answer how much. A lot of the sequences, like the dress shop from the original game is there. The restaurant where there's a guy who needs you to get him and like Pepto-Bismol, Midgar Pepto-Bismol. He's there in this game. But they completely change the sequence for getting into Don Corneo's mansion. First off, when you try to go in, there's a new character. What is his name? Gray hair.
Oh, fuck.
It's with an L. Leslie, I think.
Leslie
His name's
Kyle.
Leslie.
Leslie sounds right.
Yeah,
Leslie Kyle.
yeah. The
It is Leslie.
hat.
Yeah, Kid in the Hat. He's a
Yeah.
goon with a heart of gold.
Was also a major character in The Kids Are Alright, a Turk's side story.
Well, Leslie is in this game, and when you say that you want to get in to see Don Corneo, he's like, you don't want to do that. And then Aerith's like, just let me go in. He likes girls, right? And he's like, you don't want to go in there. Just don't do it. If you wanted to go in there, you'd need to talk to the trio, who are these three characters who did not exist in the original game, but they're kind of, what would you call them? Like leaders of wall market establishments? One of them is the...
Corneo's generals.
Kinda, but they don't seem to like Corneo very much. They just kind of know him and know what he likes in girls. And that's it. Like they play nice with Corneo, and Corneo seems to back them financially, but they're not. They understand that he's gross. And they understand that you clearly don't want to do well by him. And they help you out anyway. So you need to talk to Andrea Rodea, who is the he's the star of the Honeybeans burlesque show. Madam M, who's a hand masseuse. And Chocobo Bill, who's a cowboy man who runs the Chocobo stables that get you to Wall Market.
What an amazing character.
I love Yep. So first, how did y'all tackle your encounters with the trio, Jeff?
Oh, it's been a minute. Production note, my PS4 has been out on loan for a while, so my playthrough of this game happened almost an entire year ago. So this is like really hoary details that I don't recall.
So
I did everything. I know that. Someone else described this, though.
I conspired with Andrea 100%.
Yeah, so you go to Chocobo Bill, and regardless of what you do, he has a two-headed coin, and he will cheat you. Madam M, you need Madam M to
I paid all the money to get her hand massage, and I got to see Cloud's O face.
Yeah, so you get some. So first you can go to these people in any order. Chocobo Bill will tell you to fuck off because Tifa is the girl he recommended, so he's already shot his shot. And I guess they get some sort of credit if Don Corneo picks the person they referred. So he referred Tifa. He says, fuck off. You don't want to do this. Aerith, then you need to get her in, and you need to get Cloud in. So Madam M is the first person who you can meet. She is a hand masseuse. She will at first be very hostile to you, showing up at her doorstep not to pay for her services. But then once you buy a hand massage for Cloud, she will agree to help you. You have three options. You can get the luxury package, the standard package, and the poor package, which are 3,000 gil, 1,000 gil, and 100 gil, respectively. So what did everyone buy? ZP, what does the 3,000 gil package get you?
It gives you a nice time. And then you get to see Cloud's O-Face.
Yeah, I feel like I paid for the mid-tier one.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
What happens with the mid-tier one? Because I've seen the most expensive and least expensive one.
Well, you know how, the theory of min-maxing, where it's you should, either go whole ass or no ass into a thing, because, midway is boring. Finishing 8th and making playoffs to get bounced is boring. Yeah, well, that was probably what it was like, but I couldn't tell you specifically.
That's fair.
It's telling that I don't remember, I guess.
So Yeah, if you get the most expensive one, Cloud walks around in a post-coital daze, and Aerith tries to talk to him. He's like, I can't talk right now.
You're acting really weird. He's like,
yeah.
What?
And if you get the 100 gil one, it's great. Madam M says this is an experimental treatment. Some would say that it's pleasure. Some would say that it's pain. But this is what you ordered. And then she violently throws the door, closes the door, and then bends your arm askew. It just basically wrenches it out of its socket. And then Cloud walks back in pain, grabbing his arm as though it was broken.
It's great that you meet all these people, and each time you meet up with these people, it is clearly committed. It's clearly communicated that everyone who works with Don Corneo fucking hates him, and they're totally down with you fucking him up.
Yeah, no one likes Don Corneo because he's a pig. He's violent. He's unpredictable. So yeah, they are all 100% in on it. So once you talk to Madam M, she agrees to help you, but first you need to go to the fighting arena.
Andrea.
Because she has some bets on you. Well, when you try to go to Andrea, he won't take notice of you until you go to the combat arena. So you go to the combat arena. You and Aerith
Corneo Coliseum.
Yep, Corneo Coliseum.
Get the Corneo Cup.
Yep, and you and Aerith are a tag team because there are no rules. I love that they're like, so is this single combat? Whatever. It's the two of you? Sure, whatever. The first person you fight is a beast tamer, so it's a man and a monster. I think the second group you fight is just a gang with guns. And they're like, what the hell? We're two people. This is a gang. And they're like, yeah, it's anything goes in the Corneo Cup. That's a team. These 8 people are a team. And then once you defeat them, I think the final one is against Chocobo Bill's goons, and his goons are robots, violent robots. And it turns out that those are allowed too. And after you defeat Chocobo Bills and claim the Corneo Cup, they announce a special final round beyond the Chocobo Bill fight.
The match beyond, if you will.
ZP, what is this special one-time only fight? What do you fight?
Oh, shit. I actually did all of the challenges for this, so it's a little fuzzy for me. Is this when it's a 2-person team versus Team Payback?
No, this is a 2-person team versus the Hell House.
Oh, right. That's right. Sorry.
Answering one of my largest questions, which was I guess broader. It's there's some real magical realism's not the right word, but PlayStation 1 amalgamations of flat shaded polygons that you fight in Final Fantasy VII that don't necessarily correspond to lived real world stuff. And the giant house you occasionally fight, maybe chief among them, it's just a big Baba Yaga pastel nightmare thing. And it's there's really no way they get that into this game. And it had not been spoiled for me when it happened, but I basically just set controller down and just clapped for about 5 minutes. It's oh my god, they did it. They did it in a way that they're aware. Oh my, it's maybe the best gag of the year.
It might be the best boss in a Final Fantasy game since goddamn... Well, actually, I think there are a couple of clever and interesting boss battles in 12, even if Gino will fight me tooth and nail about that. But yeah, it's been a while since I played a boss that was this fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It actually pushed back a little bit. It was the point where I think I was wow, Tifa's really fucking fun to play with.
But
every
Tifa's
time
not
I
in
have
that fight. It's Aerith and Cloud.
I know. I was I really missed Tifa's action in here, but I had to really piece together how I'm going to optimize playing with Aerith now.
Yeah.
Very, very, very. A game with a lot of high points, and maybe the highest one for me.
Yeah, for me, the Hell House is the best combat sequence in this game. I loved figuring out its weaknesses because it plays really differently. Like the Hell House will switch elemental alignments as you go through the fight, and if you don't attack it with the correct elemental weakness, you're not going to damage that thing hardly at all. It has multiple modes. Like at first it's just a house, and the announcers are just like, gentrification fights back. This house, some say, was left alone and abandoned, and then it turned evil. As you keep beating it up, like, eventually arms and legs sprout out of it, and then it starts flying by the third sequence. Like, the Hell House, in the original game, like, it starts out as a house and then it becomes a monster. But this one then goes one step beyond that. Its moves are very cool. Like, sometimes it'll suck you into the door and then beat you up and then spit you out. It's just a masterful fight.
Yeah.
It's the highest high point, I think, in the combat. The only shame is that you don't have, I think, the most fun character for fighting it. I agree with Jeff. It's Tifa. So you beat the Hell House. That makes Andrea Rodea take notice of Cloud, and so you get a special appointment with Andrea Rodea, and he basically the entire sequence where you had to get Cloud a dress and a wig and all those sorts of things, that does not happen the same way in this game. You do have to go to the gym at one point. I forget what you have to get from the gym.
I don't know, because I was spending all my time doing that goddamn pull-up minigame.
It's the squatting minigame in this one.
Yeah, the
pull-ups
squatting
are later.
minigame. Yeah, it sucks.
As a rhythm game player, no, it doesn't. It's easy and great.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Same. I beat it pretty fast, but I found it's much more engaging than the original squatting minigame. I like that there's a slow ramp-up period where you're not very limber, and the further in you get, the faster you can enter the sequence.
I love the mock intense music that they play as you do squats, basically.
Yep.
God damn it.
Dun, dun,
This game
dun.
is genuinely funny. Like, funny in ways that I didn't know Square had it in them to be funny anymore.
Well, let's talk about Andrea's entrance and the Honeybee Inn, because...
Well, yeah, so...
French chef kiss.
Outside of the Honeybee Inn, do you find the teacher from the orphanage?
Yep.
Pursuing her dream of being a dancer. And she's like, in Wall Market, we don't talk about people's pasts. So don't ask me about mine. So, ZP, you want to talk about it? What happens when we go to the Honeybee Inn?
So I think that, Jeff, you actually said this in Discord, or in the Discord. Like, when you stop and think about how bad this could have been.
This is the part, like, curious about how they're going to do the house, interested in some things, having gone and poked Final Fantasy VII a couple times. This is the thing. This is the one where, like, so the original game treats this as like, it's all in good fun, right? It's not exactly a sensitive treatment of a individual who identifies as like a cis het white dude, has to dress as a woman to accomplish a thing, like a token objective, right? It's maybe not handled the most sensitively in that original game. And there's like also maybe an implied rape scene in the Final Fantasy VII. Who knows? It's kind of weird. So go check it out. I'm really not making that part up.
Nope.
This scene is maybe the finest I've seen a AAA company thread a thing in a while. I'm not going to sit and say it's like, oh my God, they nailed it. It's like perfect representation. But I don't think it's like that sort of thing. But they could have made this really shitty in like so many different directions, and that they basically managed to not is a testament to, I think, either the people who wrote this or the number of people they ran it by and were like, right, this don't work, this don't work, this don't work, or don't do that. This was the scene, like, miraculously we had a save file that was like right before this happened, and like every single person that came into this house after we bought it, my wife was like, I have to show you Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have to show you this scene. And she did, because it's also just like fun and cute, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you put on a burlesque show. Like there's a rhythm mini game where Cloud has to show his moves to Andrea Rodea to prove that he is worthy of being made up. And it's like a song and a dance, and I imagine that it's much more fun to watch than to play because there's so much going on that I couldn't pay attention to because I had to press buttons.
I think it's actually kind of shitty the way they set up the prompts in a way, like deliberately sort of fucks with you.
Particle effects that really fucked me up during this scene. Like, oh shit,
Yes.
there's like bright lights and all this stuff on here, and it's like actually hard to input the prompts.
I cannot emphasize this enough. I am not a highly ranked Rock Band player, but I'm on a team that's a really highly ranked Rock Band team, and I play just a lot of rhythm games. So, like, if you're sick like me, this is not going to be a problem. But there's some tricky bullshit in there that makes it more difficult than it needs to be. But just looking at it, it's pretty cool to look at.
Yeah, and so Cloud gets made up, and you basically get this walk with Cloud in a dressed up. The handling of the kind of overtly gay Jim is much better. Like, they don't ogle the same way that they did in the original. Like, you don't have to get a wig. A dude doesn't produce a wig from his shorts like
There's
they
no
do in
really
the original
awkward hot tub scene in Honeybee Inn.
Yep. What?
Is that what they did?
Yeah, they just pull out a wig.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And then they kind of drown Cloud in a tub in a lot of really large gay-coded men, and he says it hurts. And it's like, maybe this is all bad. Maybe they shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, you need to get underwear, and you can get the underwear by going to a few different rooms at the Honeybee Inn. One of them is the fuck room. One of them is the group room. If you go to the fuck,
he's not joking. It's the F word, and then all of the other letters are asterisked out.
Yeah, it's the fuck room. You can go to either the fuck room or the group room. If you go to the group room, it's a large group of...
This is where I did the pull-up minigame. Oh, God, fuck this.
You do the squat minigame. The pull-up minigames...
I did Andrea's pull-ups because he challenged me to be a man.
No, that's later. That's when you come back to Wall Market.
Oh, fuck that. Andrea actually is the worst.
But yeah, in the original game, like, all the characters from the gym show up in the group room, and then Cloud's like, ow, I hurt. And it's like, oh, ha 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 ha. And if you go to I forget what's in the fuck room. Fuck room also is bad.
No, don't you peep in and find out that one of the Shinra executives is like either getting BDSM done to him or he's doing it to another person?
Heidegger is in there, I think.
No, it's President Shinra, and he's doing role play.
Oh.
In one of the rooms. And then there's like an elderly couple in one of the rooms because it's
none of that's in here.
None of that's in here. Yeah,
thank God. Instead, you get this performance by Andrea, and you're asked to be a part of the performance. And, yeah, like Jeff said, it's not perfect, but in terms of the whole, like, we took this highly problematic scene and made it less problematic, if not kind of like a highlight for a lot of people.
I mean, it's
good.
The song is... like, I mean, the most cleaned up gay pride sort of thing. Like, gender doesn't mean anything. Beauty is beauty. Everyone is love. It's very, very Disney-fied.
I want to find the actual quote. So if y'all just meander on a little bit, I'm going to pull this up.
And did you have any
Andrea's
strong feelings
outfit?
about the sequence? Andrea's outfit's great.
I did not get up to this sequence, so I've been watching the video of the dance-off. This is very intense.
Oh, yeah.
The particle effects are a lot, but it's fun. I
Like
really
I said,
like seeing Cloud, who is every weeb's like wet dream of this like strong, tough guy being made to do a dance-off in order to cross-dress.
Yep.
So
you need to win
appreciate that.
You need to win a dance-off so that you have the honor of cross-dressing.
Yeah. Okay, so the quote I'm looking for... So you do this dance, and, like, even if you really screw it up, also, like, it keeps cutting to
Aerith
who's
watching and...
just, like, hyperventilating, clapping, so excited to watch this thing happen. And then Andrea Brode gives a little speech, and the line I want to pull here is, "True beauty is an expression of the heart, a thing without shame to which notions of gender don't apply." Which is not only just nice, but also, like, I don't know. I think that is just a wonderful way to sort of reframe what was like this fobbed off, like, haha, the guy's in a dress gag, basically, from the original game. I don't know. I found that to be good on a way I wasn't expecting it to be.
No, continue, Gino. I apologize.
No, I mean, I take it as, like, it's much better than what the original game did.
Yes.
It is a million times better. This is a much better sequence. It just felt... I mean, the queerness expressed in this sequence felt very new Queer Eye in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, yes, these people are gay, and they are going to act authentic to themselves, but nothing here is going to really threaten a cis sensibility in any meaningful way. It's all a feel-good, come together, beauty is genderless, clap, clap. Which is a million times better than the original game.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I will take this.
Oh, yeah.
hand over
Like,
fist.
the Honeybee Inn is one of those scenes where it's like, man, it's hard to go back to. It's really such a bitter pill.
It sounds like the bar was very low.
And it leapt over it.
Yeah.
It, running sprint, jumped over it. It's very entertaining.
Out of curiosity, what dresses did you end up getting for Tifa and Aerith?
I thought they're default.
Aerith got the real boppin' one that they rolled out the red carpet for me.
Isn't it the red one?
No, you
Always
can
the
get
red
multiple different, depending on how many side quests you complete. So if you complete all of the side quests, you can either have the normal indigo dress for Tifa, then it's a Kipao, the Chinese dress, and then she can dress up as a Japanese Miko girl.
Really? I didn't know this.
You should actually look into it. The exotic dress for Tifa is good.
What is the best dress?
It's for Tifa, it's the exotic. It's the long red dress for Aerith, because you have to complete all 6 of her things. And if you complete fewer than 2, I think it's the very basic pink dress.
She definitely had the blue one as I'm looking at this image, but the Kipao is... All these... Look, if you like anime ladies, this game's not going to let you down.
Jeff, what's my middle name?
ZombiePie.
Yeah.
Redacted.
Redacted.
Yes, redacted, I think.
Here, I'll post the link here. I was just meant to...
Is it Nekopara?
What?
Oh, wow, so for Aerith, I got this gigantic, expensive-looking red dress, and everyone, as soon as they saw her, were freaking out everywhere she went.
Yeah, giant red carpet.
So that means you completed all of Aerith's quests, but maybe you didn't complete all of Tifa's quests.
I got the Chinese dress for Tifa.
So that means you completed half of the odd jobs. So I think it's, Anyways, regardless, this scene with Don Corneo, boy howdy, again, this could have been a highly problematic scene that they delicately threaded somehow, magically, by, dealing with Don Corneo by having Tifa hit him across the head with a fucking chair.
Yeah. With
just a big fucking smile on her face, too. Just stoked about it.
Oh, it's so good.
He's such a dirtbag. I really enjoy that Don Corneo's bed. The covers just have the Japanese symbol for heaven.
Yeah.
On it. It's great.
Big dirty Tien. It's great.
I like his gigantic bars of gold and loose pieces of coral that he's got in his bedroom. I like that there are just rooms that just seem to be for gassing people in his room, like in his mansion. I like that his basement is still weird and fucked up. This sequence is fun. Don Corneo's gross.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
like that-
but I feel like at least this time, even the people that are under his employ actively are disgusted by him rather than,
Yes.
here's this disgusting person who, yuck, 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 no, what a funny dude. It's like
Yeah.
that whole scene when he kidnaps in 7. It's
Yuffie?
Aerith and Yuffie, and
No, it's Yuffie and Elena.
it's just
of the
the
Turks.
worst.
She's 16, I
He
think.
wants to have the mature adult things.
Yeah, it's gross. We'll see if that makes it into future iterations of Final
Probably
Fantasy VII
not.
Remake. We'll see. So this sequence ends the way it did in the original game with Aerith, Cloud, and Tifa threatening to cut it off, smash it to bits, punch it off? I forget. They threatened to destroy his junk, just annihilate it. And then he tells them the truth, and then he asks you the question, why would a bad guy tell you all of his secrets? Because he thinks you have your beat, and then he hits a button, and you fall down a hole.
Comic book pratfall. That the scenes of threatening to remove this man's genitals by various means apparently really stuck with my spouse at the time, and she was delighted that it basically made the cut in this, I guess. Like, it's pretty direct language they're employing.
I believe that was originally a Foxy Brown reference.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, that is as far as we've gotten for this show, as far as we're going to go for this show. So, how is everyone feeling about Final Fantasy VII Remake so far?
I feel uncomfortable answering that question, given that I have finished the game.
I have also finished the game,
I
but
will
let's pretend.
pass.
Okay. M, as the only person who has not finished this game, how are you feeling so far with Remake?
I mean, I have no connection to Final Fantasy VII. I honestly liked Advent Children when it came out, but I was also teen at some point. I don't remember when that was released, but I don't know. It hasn't done anything bad to me yet, and I'm excited to get through Wall Market. I was like right on the cusp of it. Now I have all the more reason to catch up, and yeah, it's going good. I'm not as personally invested, but also I'm down with whatever it's throwing at me.
Good. Okay, well, I think with that,
we have some interesting conversations to have in the next episode. Would you not agree, Gino and Jeff?
We sure do. Some stuff's going to happen we may or may not enjoy.
Boy, it was really interesting seeing Gino react to the thing that I was reacting poorly to in real time, and then he had the same reaction as me.
I like how we didn't even talk about blank. There's something that even in those conversations in the Discord, which you should all join, it's $1. I'm just going to send a thing. Yeah, never mind.
We probably should have talked about Chadley a little bit more. Just going to put that out there.
There's some other characters that are in the early part of original Final Fantasy VII that get to touch on in this game too, that are kind of interesting.
Really? Who?
You know, like a weird animal hybrid character.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll eventually talk about him.
Yeah.
What about Evan Townsend
What?
from A Turk's Side Story?
No. We will never talk about Evan Townsend.
We talk
All
about
right.
Kyrie.
No. We can
Okay.
talk about Kingdom Hearts Kyrie, but not any other Kyries.
Can we talk about the Paopu fruit?
Can we talk about
Yes.
the sage-loving Kyrie?
No.
Yeah.
Sage is a
All right.
new class in Final Fantasy XIV.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
All right, so with that, we conclude our part 1 of the Final Fantasy VII Remake discussion. Next time we will finish the game, and we will place Final Fantasy VII Remake on its definitive location in the ranking of fantasies. Right now it's feeling pretty high, but we'll see. the top of this list is a murderer's row.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you, ZP.
Is butt cheeks one word, or should I spread them? Here's the Pocky in my mouth.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. It's good to talk to you all. Except for
Thank
Chris.
you, M.
Butt cheeks is hyphenated.
Thank you, listeners, for putting up with us. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can do so at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, which will get you access to our Discord. Till next time, peace.